This video was brought to you by Squarespace. Hey me! I mean you! Do you need a website? Because if you do, I got a little tip for you. It's called Squarespace. My website, Arlo Recommends, looks really nice, but building it was super easy thanks to Squarespace. I picked a template, I tweaked it a little bit, and it was done. Now I can spend more time making content, but even that doesn't take very much time. It's so easy. You throw in some text, pictures, social media posts, format it however you want. Set it to automatically push every post to social media. Schedule your posts ahead of time. And if I ever need more, Squarespace offers loads of powerful extensions and extensive analytics so I can always see how my website is doing. To try out Squarespace for yourself, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. Then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Arlo to save 10% off your first website or domain. And now for today's recommendation. Ys Origin. Never played any Ys game in my life. I don't even know what an Ys is, or if I'm pronouncing it right, but I saw it on the eShop, bought it on a very unusual, random whim, and now I can't put it down. Straightforward progression, simple RPG mechanics, crunchy hack and slash gameplay, and that classic JRPG aesthetic I adore. Check it out. Thanks again to Squarespace. Now, off with the video. On with the video. Remember Electabits? Hello, my friends. Sorry for the disembodied voice. I'm coming down with a cold, of course, and I also just had a camera shoved up my nose, so just not super in the mood to be on camera. So it goes without saying that everything I say in this video, pure speculation. You know, just like any and all of it could be dramatically wrong. But I have been thinking a lot recently about the next Nintendo Direct, and I feel like there's a really good chance that whatever it is, whatever it ends up being, might tell us a lot about Nintendo's future plans. Like, the contents of the next Direct could be very, very important. There's your thesis, there's our starting point. Now for context. Recently some reports have been coming out that the big three are skipping E3. Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, just nothing to do with E3 at all. Now we know this could easily mean nothing other than these companies don't want to be a part of E3 anymore. You know, which it makes sense. E3, it's basically dying. The ESA, they're gross. Fine. E3 as a concept has run its course. I like E3, I like the idea of all the companies doing these events at the same time, but you know, it's just not necessary. Xbox just did a developer direct. Weird that they would pick, they would use the word direct, but whatever. Xbox has got their thing. Nintendo Directs, Sony State of Play, like they have their own presentation. Even like beyond like ones with cute little names, Xbox and Sony, like they'll be like, hey, we got a bunch of games to announce. So they'll just do it. They'll throw it out there. Cool. All three of those companies might end up doing presentations in June that just have nothing to do with E3. Whatever. So Nintendo not doing E3 might not mean anything. They might just give us a June Direct anyway. That said, though, last year, we expected a Direct in June, and we also did not get one. Now, the Switch is getting real long in the tooth. We know we're very late in the Switch's life cycle, and if that's the case, then yeah, it makes sense that Nintendo just doesn't need as many Directs in any given year. Last year, this year, maybe next year, you know what I mean? It might not be important. They just don't have as many games to show. But then adding to the idea that Nintendo might skip their usual June Direct this year, there have been a lot of rumors from quote-unquote insiders who have heard that Nintendo is skipping the show because they just don't really have anything else to show off for the second half of the year. And some believe this is because next year they're gonna give us a new system, so like this is really just kinda it for the Switch. So that is certainly possible. However, one very good counterpoint comes from Kit Ellis from Kit and Krista, previously from Nintendo Minute. He worked for Nintendo for a lot of years, and he says that based on his experience, it just doesn't make sense that anyone at Nintendo who really knew what was going on would just kind of casually tell anyone that they have a light schedule for the second half of the year. That is super duper breaking NDA. That is very, very bad. And I know we've had, you know, leakers here and there. Sometimes this information can and does get out, sure. And he also says that whatever the reason is for Nintendo to skip E3 this year, we might know it soon. Interesting. I'll get back to that. So whatever the reason for Nintendo potentially not wanting to do E3, we still don't know. There might be a Direct in June, whatever. But the idea of them having a sparse second half of this year is absolutely possible. Because, like, you know, if we are getting a system next year, that means that they are actively developing for that. You know, we're getting the leftovers, we're getting the scrap. It just makes sense. You're near the end of the console's life cycle. Things slow down. But I also think that Kit's comment makes sense. You know, again, why would someone at Nintendo blab about it? So, like, both of those possibilities are, you know, possible. With all of that context, here is what I've been thinking. So, like, there's gonna be a whole video on this, absolutely, but, like, just recently, it really just kind of hit me how likely it is that the Switch really is at the end of its life and that we might get a new system next year. I don't know, I knew it was coming, but maybe just all of these rumors and all the, it's just the right ingredients, and it just kind of hit me. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this might be the Switch's last year. Like, no joke. We might be in it right now. The Switch's last complete year of being Nintendo's primary console. You know, 7 years is the standard amount of time for a system to be fully supported these days. You know, like, it used to be 5, but things, they move a little slower now, so it's just 7. Everyone's doing 7. And even if there's some, you know, there's overlap between generations, you got cross-gen, you know, they say, oh, we're gonna support the Switch for years into the life of the next thing. Sure, but like 7 is the primary amount of time. It is so easy to lose track of this stuff. It feels like the Switch just came out, but you know what? Next March is year 7. No joke. I know you may be looking at your watches and your calendars being like, that can't be right, but no, like, next March is year 7. If Nintendo released a new system next March, about a year from now, it would make all the sense in the world. It would make perfect sense. And for even more context, there have been a lot of rumors that Nintendo did indeed plan on making a Switch Pro, but because of all the chip shortages, they decided, forget it, just scrap it, jump right into the next generation. Having an upgraded Switch model might have encouraged them to stretch the Switch's life a little bit longer. You know, they did that with the 3DS. They said themselves that they want the Switch to have a nice, long lifespan. And of course, it's very successful, so they want to ride that success as long as they can. But I could see this whole Switch Pro thing, like, I could see that being a thing that just kind of gives them the motivation, the justification to just jump right into it. Like, I know that it's not the most important thing in the world for them to have a really super powerful system. They like to be behind in that way. They like to keep costs low. But we've all been feeling it. These last few years, the Switch is really having a hard time keeping up. And I can imagine that even third-party developers are like, Nintendo, we love the Switch, we want to develop for it, but it's just getting harder and harder. So I could easily see someone at Nintendo just being like, okay, we had these games slated for the, you know, the last year or two of the Switch's life. Let's just move them. Let's just bump them. We can't do the Switch Pro, so let's just, you know, just move them over to the next system and just, you know, chop a year or two off of the Switch's life. It would make sense. All of this setup is to say that if it is true that Nintendo will give us a brand new system next year, then it's probably also true that this year will be very light. Maybe not, you know? Maybe they'll still have plenty of games coming for Switch all the way up to the new system's launch and beyond it. Maybe, but just looking at their history, it will probably be slim pickings during the Switch's last year, whenever that may come. They can only develop so much at any given time, so like at some point you just gotta go, okay, we're making Switch 2 games now, it's just how it is. So to back up a little bit, a Direct is inevitable right now. Obviously, we don't really know. They might just not give us one. There might just be no Directs all year. I don't know, but like, I feel like right now it's basically inevitable. We've got a Zelda that needs a full reveal before May. We still know very little about it. We've got rumors of Advance Wars coming back around, finally getting a release date soon. And then we got Kirby, Bayonetta, and Octopath 2 all coming in the next month or so. And we know Nintendo loves to do like a final final trailers and info and stuff in directs. It's just a thing that they like to do. And then beyond that, if Nintendo is gonna do anything with, if Pikmin 4 is actually coming this year, or if they want to bring in Metroid Prime 4, then we need info. If those are going to be coming this year, then the time to give us info is pretty darn soon. And if they're not doing something in June, that's another thing to mention. If they end up not doing anything in June, then that puts even more pressure on this immediate next Nintendo Direct. We are due for one. They need to give us one. There is a pregnant tension in the air. One is going to just materialize any second now, probably. Because also consider that we have a relatively sparse year, but Zelda and Advance Wars are two of the main things that we know are coming this year. Those weren't even originally supposed to be 2023 games. They got delayed into 2023, so that paints an even clearer picture of 2023 and what it could potentially be in terms of sparseness of the release schedule. So when the Direct comes, assuming it will come soon, I think it will, mid-February, whatever, Valentine's Day, maybe. When it comes, if it gives us a whole bunch of new games to look forward to all year, including maybe even some big stuff, then we'll kind of be back to square one, honestly. We'll still not really know what Nintendo's plans are. For all we know, the Switch is going to have an 8-year cycle, and next year will be the slower, winding down year. Or maybe we are getting Switch 2 next year, but they just planned really well. They just have a lot of games to give us. They just did a really good job. It's possible. But if the Direct doesn't give us much, even kind of a medium-ish amount, if it's skewing on the side of lower, sparser, then I personally feel like that is all but a guarantee that we will be getting a new system next year in 2024. 2022 was packed with games, but if 2023 barely has anything apart from what was delayed into it incidentally, it's gonna feel like 2022 was the last hurrah. You know what I mean? The 7th year of a console's life being really sparse in terms of releases. What does that usually mean? Even just hearing those words, it's year 7 and there's not a lot coming out. That even just by itself means oh yeah, I know what that means. It means the system it's in its twilight years. It paints a pretty clear picture. So basically that's my point. All of this 100% just pure speculation. For all we know, the Switch will be Nintendo's primary platform until 2025, 2026. Maybe it really will be a 10-year thing. I don't know. Who knows? But I agree with what Kit said. Whatever is going on, whatever Nintendo's plans are, I think we're gonna know soon. Whatever their plans are for 2023 and maybe even beyond, I don't think it's gonna be very long before those plans are made clear. And that is why I'm so nervous, excited for the next Direct, because not only are we due for a Direct, not only might it have Pikmin information in it, but there's just a lot riding on it. It very well might tell us a lot about what's gonna happen. Let me know what you think. Is this just a crazy conspiracy theory? Speaking of conspiracy theories, my mind is going crazy now. Now I'm thinking what if Zelda only got delayed because the Switch Pro turned into the Switch 2 and they just needed it? What if it was been done for a year, but they're yeah, but we gotta put something in 2023. There were gonna be these other games, but we made these launch games, so they're gonna come out the next year. You know what I'm saying? Whatever, I'm just gonna stop now. I love you. Have a good day. And did you know it's really gross inside your nose? I don't know if you ever looked inside there, but wow, it was pretty crazy.